Everyone, is this working? This is a first attempt at what I assume will be the first of many livestream send-offs. You see, I don't keep all of my toys. Sometimes I send them off to friends. Particularly this and two other figures that I will be reviewing live. Live to the internet, in a new setup. Yes, it's all crinkled as shit, but I can't actually iron this material because it's a really, really cheap light box that I haven't actually... Oh, bugger. One moment. I just realized. There we go. Ah, much better. Now I've actually turned the lights on. Hooray! And hello, Raptor Talon. Good to see that you're in here. Now, if you would give me a minute. Okay. I've just got to set up the comments section so that I can actually see it on the side here. Hooray! That seems to work splendidly. No, you cannot be on the stream, Raptor. That is not the case. Okay, so I just have to set up the comment recording section. You're a good friend, that's all I can say. Okay, so let me just set that up, and we are good to go. So, let's see if anyone is actually bothering to watch this. The first toy on the chopping block is Age of Extinction Scorn / Weijiang Oversized Age of Extinction Scorn. This guy is the one I am keeping, and this guy is the one I am sending off to a friend in Israel. So, I bought this guy first off Sir Toys, and I thought I'd really, really enjoy it. However, I have to say the Hasbro one is better. This guy's good, but the Hasbro version just fits the scale more, and there's a lot of iffy things with this version. No, I'm probably not the only one. There's 2 people watching according to what I've got on this little phone thing. Besides, I'll upload it later. Maybe more people will watch later. So, what is the problem with Age of Extinction Weijiang Scorn? Well, for starters, let's get a point of reference. So, Scorn came out in probably one of the second worst movie toy line we've had, the worst being Last Night, because there was just basically nothing. I mean, Last Night was technically worse because it had a bunch of repaints, but I mean, for God's sake, what was Age of Extinction anyway, with all of its stupid, simplified designs? You know, the Optimus was terrible. Everyone was essentially... The Optimus was terrible. Don't forget about, what was it, Galvatron. Galvatron was a piece of garbage. I mean, honestly, what were even the Dinobots anyway? They were all pretty terrible. We're only getting a good Grimlock now in Studio Series, but with Scorn, he was definitely the highlight of the line, probably one of the only good toys in the whole line. And as far as dinosaur modes go, he really doesn't fit into the Age of Extinction design philosophy. He's more, let's say, Beast Wars / Transformers Prime designed. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. I mean, it could be a bad thing to some people who are massively into the movies, but I don't really see it that way. So, right here we have the dinosaur mode, and one thing that's really cool is that the way the head's hidden actually works quite well. This middle section here is a bit iffy though, and my copy, because it's second-hand, actually has very floppy legs, particularly this one here. So that's not too big of an issue, because that can be fixed with floor polish, but it is something to note that probably will happen at some point, you know, as the toy breaks down and as you use it a bit more. I love the spines they've got here, but I'm not too fond of the soft plastic they used at the back here. I don't really see the point of it. Plus, the sword has a tendency to pop out here. He's a bit of an oddly posed dinosaur. I mean, it's great that he can move his head, but his head doesn't really move up and down. It can, but you have to disengage the neck section and then move that, and then it doesn't really look right, so that's a bit unfortunate. The legs, as you can see, they are on ball joints, and they have 2 hinges that kind of break the illusion, plus you end up, you know, revealing this hollow part back here. Not to mention, the arms have ball joints. It all works rather well. Now, compare that to the Weijiang version. Now, already this one has a trouble standing up. I will say that the paint on the face is way better. I mean, that eye just pierces into your soul. And the joints are way tighter. The problems aren't exactly in the dinosaur mode, except for these. The plastic is a lot harder and a lot more bent. I've tried heating it up and bending them back into shape. It hasn't actually worked. The articulation remains the same, and he can stand okay, but it is a little bit harder thanks to the added die-cast parts. Not to mention, well, you know, the joints probably will break down at some point again. Plus, the kind of pins they've used are far more unsightly than the deluxe version. I get that it's a bigger figure, it's basically Voyager-sized, so that's going to make some more sense, but it's still not ideal. So, what else do we have? Well, the plastic back here is a lot harder. I do prefer that. However, the paint does have a tendency to chip on it. I will say in Dino mode, the paint is better on the upscale, but the paint is more vibrant on the deluxe version. They've gone slightly muted on this version. And I mean, it's not perfect either way, but still, it could have been a lot better. So, point goes to the deluxe version. Now, let's show off the transformation as best as I can. I've never done it on a live stream before. This is going to fail miserably. Basically, you fold down these side parts, extend the legs, you go around here, you fold down this leg section, fold down this section, fold down the arm section right there. It's not very easy. Rotate these spines back here and plug them into the back, like so. You bring arm around, you transform the arm. Now, what you're supposed to do on this one is actually open up the arm and then open up the hand, but then that leaves an unsightly gap there, so I usually like to leave that closed. It doesn't really affect the design that much. Now, look at this. This one's got a pretty cool Automorph. When you rotate this, it rotates up like that, and then you can pull up the head. Now that is a very cool feature. You can then open up the legs and pull out the feet, like so, and you have a pretty cool Scorn that's having a bit of a tough time standing, simply because his legs, his hips, are pretty loose. Now, when you get to the Weijiang version, there's a few problems. The arm transform is pretty much the same with that. However, when you try to push the hand in and click it in place, it doesn't actually click in properly. So it's just left slightly out like that, and it looks like it's sort of doing that internet meme that everybody does with the kind of that, but upside down. Then you get around this part, everything works as normal, legs function normally. It's a lot easier to do the legs, they're not actually locked in place. It does make me worry about the longevity of the transformation joints though. Now when you rotate it, it doesn't really do much. The arms just kind of, when they're in this version, the arms just kind of freely move up and down. But if you really want to get the arm out, you have to push it up yourself because the Automorph doesn't actually work at all. It's a bummer. Why? So you gotta pull up the head manually again, and it feels a bit off, and it kind of falls down very easily on the knockoff version. And when you bring it up like that, it's just still falling into the head cavity. Just why? Just so many levels of why. Why does it do that? Why does it do that? And why isn't this focusing? That's a bummer. How did I get this to focus? Yeesh. Should really focus. Oh, no, that. Eek. No, that's not it at all. Eek. Okay, that looks a bit better now. So, what we have here is a rather big disappointment with the robot mode. This guy has got great proportions, this guy does not because his shoulders don't quite come up far enough and the head is very sunken in. The articulation is identical, you've got shoulders on hinges, they come out, again, that falls out. That doesn't fall out on the knockoff version, so that's an improvement. Bicep swivel, bend at the elbow. Same on this side. You get a little bit of wrist articulation inward if you really must. You do get a waist swivel, but that's at the cost of this not being up. You have to bring it down to get the waist swivel. And I mean, it's not terrible either way. This guy is toppling over as well. I've really got to get used to this setup. Meanwhile, you can also get the sword in there. Works quite well. Really loose ball joints, because this is a second-hand copy. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That is not good at all. You get your thigh swivel, double jointed knee, which is quite a nice thing there. And if it had ankle tilt, it would be great, but it doesn't. Overall, this guy is a bit more difficult in the shoulders because, I mean, look at that. It doesn't even move past like that. I'm worried I'm going to break the plastic if it moves any higher than that. Whereas this guy, you can get the full range. So, you know, if you want to make any inappropriate salutes that will get you arrested by the British government, you can't do it on the Weijiang version. Because of course you can't. And I mean, just these bloody spikes ruin it. It just, they're bent in. Sure, this guy's bigger. Sure, this guy has high quality plastic and the added die cast. But the version just wins out in the end. Which is why I offered to sell it to one of my friends on Discord. So, what would I give these guys in terms of scores? Yeah, that's the one problem. Well, the loose hips is just my copy. It's not really something that I give up. The loose hips is just my copy. It's not something I can really blame the figure on. So, I'm going to give this guy a 4 out of 5 and this guy a 3 out of 5. It's almost a 2. It's almost a 2, but it's not quite. Could have been a 2 easily, but thankfully it's not. Because of the solid plastic quality, and also, you know, the paint's done well. It's muted, but the paint's done really, really well, and it could pass for a Hasbro toy on a shelf pretty easily. Problem is, well, the joints. That's the main issue. So, that guy is getting sent off, and I am keeping this guy, and we are on to the next figure. It's time to get into the masterpiece. If I can just... Oh, where did I leave it? Should have it somewhere. It should be somewhere. I know I had it here a moment ago. Oh, bugger. One moment. Ah, here we are. Here we have Masterpiece Knockoff Sideswipe. Another one I am sending off. I actually sourced it for the guy because he needed a head to swap out for the G2 Sideswipe, and I thought, hey, I'll just get you a cheap knockoff. I got this from another friend, the same friend who has sent me a package that has currently had a video filmed about it, but I've got to edit it. So, what we have here is a rather convincing replica of the Masterpiece Sideswipe. I'm not sure about the actual code for it, but overall, this is surprisingly good. There are a few problems when it comes to robot mode, but that is in robot mode, not vehicle mode. Everything holds together well, it all fits together well. One thing that's a bit of a pain is that you look at this back here and it's got Lamborg 3 can't touch, you know, as Thew commented on his Red Alert knockoff. You can touch this, do 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 do, can touch this, do 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 do. And so, what else is there? Well, I guess you can put the weapons on it, but I don't really want to go with the weapons because they're still in the box and I don't want to actually open the box in fear of, well, damaging its figure. You got the weapons and you got those, and they're both sealed, and I really don't want to damage the figure. I've already taken the stuff out of the weapons box. It's not my figure. I guess I could maybe deal with some of these. Does the gun fit in here? I believe it would fit in there. I mean, yep, the gun fits in there on the top, if you really, really must. It's kind of dumb, but so be it. And he's really, really just a good car former. A striking car former that, you know, we haven't gotten to see again until the Sunstreaker came out. But the main attraction of this would definitely be the transformation. The transformation is bloody ingenious. First thing you want to do is get this top section off. Where does it... There's the seam. You get it off at the seams. That pops off. And that pops off. There you go. And then it untabs from everything like so. Just leave that on the top. You untab this. Untap the legs to make it a bit easier. Fold out the spoiler. From here, you can start to slowly bring out these parts. And in the process, you can bring out the back parts. All of this folds around like so. Remember, this section is supposed to fold down. You twist these around. And you get these bits on the bottom. You take these little bits out here, like so. And then, from there, it's sort of like the Combiner Wars in a sense, or the predecessor to Combiner Wars, only executed much better. It's rather... Oh, come on. Get in there, get in there. There we go, there we go. Hooray, woohoo. Okay, so once you get everything lined up, you bring these bits up, you bring the feet out, you bring the heel spurs out. We're halfway there. That leg transformation is great. That is a fantastic leg transformation. I don't care what anyone says, it's bloody brilliant. So after that, you can start to bring everything together, bring the wheels out. The backpack at the back here can fold in on itself, which works quite well. From here, these sections fold around to form the arms. Bloody brilliant. You can then start to fold this section down. You fold the pelvis down, you kind of bring the back section back, and here's the main problem with the knockoff version. One, this part does not like to stay down. You fold it back and it just kind of falls back pretty easily. The other one is that the chest does not peg into place properly. Everything else works quite well, it's just that bloody chest section. From there, it's quite simple, just make sure the roof is properly collapsed so that you can actually get it down. This is proving rather difficult to do on camera. Yeah, here we go. Just needs to be just at the right angle. And then everything folds together. And then finally, with the old Masterpiece fist style, where you open up a cavity, pull out the fist, and close it. Because why would Masterpiece Fist do anything else? And like so, you have Sideswipe. He looks amazing. Now the chest doesn't really peg together, but on the official version that's going to be fine. And maybe on other versions of the knockoff that's also going to be fine. But I mean, damn, this figure is just... it's pretty bloody fantastic, if you ask me. I mean, he cleans up immaculately. He's not overly cartoon accurate, so he doesn't look boring. This part works really, really well. If it was done today, that would be a fake chest, so it would be slimmer, but it's not. The colours on him work fantastically. I'm not even sure if I should go for the official animation accurate version or, you know, original version, which will probably be cheaper. I don't know, but this just looks really, really good. The articulation is also quite stellar. You've got the swivel on the head, same universal shoulders, bicep swivel, single jointed elbow that unfortunately goes backwards, a bit of a bummer. Wrist swivel. Of course, you've got the Masterpiece hand open, as you usually do. And this part keeps popping out, that's really annoying. You get a waist swivel, swivel here, universal hips. The side skirt moves out to get some more movement. You get a swivel of the thigh, and a 90-degree knee bend, and a tiny ankle tilt. Very nice. This guy is very nice. And I suppose I should do a side comparison. I know I forgot to do it with the Dinobots, but here we have official Masterpiece Road Rage, Masterpiece G2 Bumblebee, and the recently purchased Masterpiece 711 Optimus Prime. And that should help you get a certain feel for how big he is. He is quite big. For, you know, he's about Voyager size, I'd say. Yeah, I don't really care for Masterpiece scale that much, but there are some scale nutters who are like, everything has to be perfectly in scale. But, you know, this works. I don't think he's too small. I think she fits in quite well. I think that figure is bloody fantastic, and Sideswipe is bloody fantastic as well. He receives 4 stars. He would get 5 if he were the original version with the proper tabbing chest and the proper tabbing head. Problem is, the head is the junker part that my friend in Israel was supposed to get. So now he's going to have a loose one. I might, you know, fix it up with floor polish for him. So that's something I'm definitely going to have to fix up. Oh no, the Slurpee Matrix. The Slurpee Matrix. Not the Slurpee Matrix. Yeah. Okay, so next up, we have, for the same friend, Alternators Optimus Prime, which has some parts that are not properly clicked in. Let's fix that. Yes, let's just bring down the camera so that I can see it properly. This right here is Alternators Optimus Prime. He is, honestly, one of the most interesting figures I got last year. I've been holding on to it for quite some time. The figure itself has plenty of potential, but due to the poor engineering from the time period, it never quite realizes it. It's a really cool design and a really cool idea. And I really wish Takara would remake these figures, similar to how they're remaking the Star Wars Transformers nowadays. We never know. It could be done. But, of course, they're going to make a million Seekers again in Masterpiece, because they got to make another version of those before they ever touch this guy. So this guy is not the traditional Optimus Prime design. I don't know what this vehicle is. When I do post-production and upload the stream with an edited version, I'll put it on the screen. Yeah. He's a pretty cool figure. I mean, this design for Optimus Prime doesn't make sense scale-wise, but the scale was focused on the vehicles, not on the, you know, robots. And when I first saw this, I was getting back into Transformers. Well, I was getting into Transformers for the first time after the movies. I was flicking through the DVD special features, and I came across a sort of documentary that would show Transformers conventions and Transformers fans and the many iterations of Optimus Prime, and I saw this guy and I was like, what? What is this? That's not Optimus Prime, because back then I'd only seen Generation 1 and the original cartoon, and a bit of Cybertron, aka Galaxy Force. But now, having this in hand, I kind of want one myself. There's only one real problem with it, and, you know, well, actually 2 real problems with it. Of course, this side part here is actually broken quite a bit, but that's not... So once again, this is a junker figure, and this is the side that he'll be using to fix, so that's perfectly fine. It's a very well-painted figure, and honestly, apparently there's 2 versions, one that has a lot of American symbols on it, and I prefer this one, actually. The nice, plain design. The detail is just immaculate. So you've even got chairs inside. I mean, I don't really see the point of having chairs inside of there. It doesn't really need to be done. You've got 3 of them, and they all fold up in a sort of way. Also, and I know this isn't really pegged in properly, I'm not sure why it's not working now, because it was earlier, but if you open up the hood, and it just fell out because I was about to show you, you can remove the engine. It's a nice touch. What's a really cool touch is that the engine converts into the gun. That's a really nice touch, but the execution is kind of lackluster. I guess I'll use that later. I suppose I should get to the transformation. You first start by untabbing this section, pulling these parts down, and then this is the scariest part of the whole transformation. You just gotta grab it, and in fact it's better if you do them separately. And you just gotta grab it to extend the legs. That is a horrible part. There should have been a release mechanism or something to push instead of this whole clicking mechanism. It's so tight, I'm worried I'm going to break it. In fact, after I do this once, I'm never transforming it again. These parts kind of fold up like so, for some reason, just to put up the feet. And then they rotate. It doesn't do anything, they just sort of rotate. I guess so that you can have different versions, depending on which version of Optimus Prime you get. Whether you want the Nemesis Prime or anything like that. This part really could have used some more cleaning up at the back here, but it just stays there, whatever. You come around to the back, and let's actually bring up the camera a little bit so I can actually show you a little bit better. You bring out these sections, you open up the doors, this part, once you come around here, you can then bring out the arms, which is very important. Come around again, there's a little seat inside that we need to slowly bring up. Once the arms are completely out of the way, you can fold up this section, and that becomes a pretty solid backpack. Around here, the arms fold down. You basically, yeah, this is the main problem. These bits are pretty terrible. They just sort of fold inwards on the shoulders, and that's about it, and they're constantly popping off. They don't fold around, and they could have made some really cool laser Optimus Prime inspired, you know, shoulder stacks, but they just don't. They just sit there like that. It's a bit, if you know. The chest collapses, and then you slowly just try to get it over the head, which is why it has to be completely backwards. This part, of course, if you haven't already, it goes from this orientation to that orientation, and the whole section kind of folds over that. And I think I can bring the camera down a little bit now that we know what we're doing. You bring the head around, you bring the hands around, and then you kind of fold the seats up at the back. You twist them around, and then you fold them up. And wow, that is actually a really cool Optimus Prime design. He may look a bit kibbly, but once you have him in hand, he gives off a real utilitarian vibe to him. And I like that about him. I really like that about him. He's not perfect. God, no. I mean, these kibble parts, they're fine. This kibble section, ugh, just no. Just a million miles of no. For God's sake. But then you have, and also these, why do they even have the doors on the inside of the car? They should have just made it an actual, you know, regular design. But then you have really cool things like these big chunky legs, and it almost looks like he's wearing the vehicle mode as armor, and that's something that the vehicle mode kind of, you know, that's something like the Movieverse actually does. Ah, I've actually got a couple in the chat. The resolution's because, well, I have terrible internet. Welcome to Australia. You two are very, very... And also, this guy's being sent off to Lala, just for, you know, a point of reference. So, in terms of articulation, you got a swivel... Actually, no, that's a ball-jointed head. You got your regular... You got sort of universal arms that sort of go out, but the kibble really gets in the way. Double-jointed elbows that are impossibly tight. The old masterpiece pointing finger and regular finger curl, as well as a wrist swivel. Yes, he's pretty thick. He's utilitarian. He's sort of like May from Overwatch. He's not actually overweight. It's actually just the clothes she wears. These arm parts are kind of weird. They fold out, sort of. I mean, it doesn't look terrible unless you look at it from the top. But I mean... Oh, this is Alternators. It's a junker. It's not terrible, but, you know, at least compared to modern toys, they hide it a bit better. You've got a waist swivel, and surprisingly this part doesn't get in the way. It does break up the sculpt a little bit, but it's, you know, not completely terrible. You got universal thighs, a knee bend, and as I said before, that transformation part of pulling them out was a nightmare. And you get an ankle tilt that is purely cosmetic. It does help a little bit, but with the whole bulk back there, doesn't really work that well. Still, the figure's quite good. I would definitely give it a 4 out of 5. And I do want to hunt down a proper one of my own at some point. And the story behind this is, well, It's going off. It's going away. This door is going to be completely chucked away. This door is going to replace the door on Kiss Player's Convoy. Yes, that part of the fandom no one likes to talk about. But that is his story. And that's what's going to happen to him. So, he's getting sent off. And now, the final toy is from Age of Extinction again. I'll just grab it. It should be behind me somewhere. Here we go. Age of Extinction Hound. This guy is not going to Israel this time. It's just going to a friend in Australia. And, you know, I got it for free from a friend. And my policy for toys that are for free, I don't sell them. Instead, I actually give them away. Because I don't really feel right selling off something that I haven't paid for myself. This vehicle mode... Ugh, just why? The detail is there, but it's ruined by all these panels. You've got great detail on the side, then you got blech, flat panels on the top. And then you got the kibble over here. And there's no fucking paint. Where's the paint? There's no paint on this blasted thing. Why? And it just screams lazy. This whole figure screams lazy. Yeah. I mean, it's a very nice concept for a vehicle. I've seen actual pictures of it, and it looks okay, but honestly, in execution, they really skimmed down on this and put all their paint budget into, of course, Optimus Prime and Galvatron and the millionth Bumblebees that you get. Now, Bumblebee, the original Bumblebee, has a lot of paint, but, you know, then, of course, it got fucked up in last night. As I said earlier in the stream, Age of Extinction was the second worst Movieverse toy line that we had, the worst being last night. And this, once again, proves it. Well, yeah, Galvatron needed the paint because he was a bloody shell former. He was a complete shell former. But this guy, he's also a shell former. He's not as bad, but he's just a bunch of shell parts. It's not very good at all. I mean, I'm glad we had the Takara versions back before Takara just gave up on repainting things. I'm gonna miss how they did things. I suppose I should go through the transformation now. So first thing you do is untap these legs. Just bring them out. Then you can untap the arms and bring them forward. And they just pick into the sides there. Ooh! That wasn't meant to happen. The wheels are supposed to fold in properly. Usually when you do that, the wheels fold in. Oh. I didn't realize that the, resolution would be so fucked because, yeah, my actual internet speed can't handle that kind of thing. Yeah, welcome to Australia. It sucks. It really, really sucks. So yeah, you get these parts in. Oh, I see the problem. I see the problem. First off, you gotta get this blasted headpiece out. You can't even do a head reveal properly. There we go. And you get a hollow back. Oh, joy. This part is pretty cool where you actually fold up the chest, but that chest is not movie accurate in any sense. It was probably based on concept art. You bring this forward. You bring the wheels back. At the very least, the last night version. Well, yeah, the Autobots United one actually looks okay. I wouldn't mind that. You bring this part around, and then you get these weird rubbery arms with these huge kibble parts. And here you have him in his unpainted glory. Also, I should mention, this copy did not come with any of the awesome weapons, which was about 50% of what you'd actually buy him. He doesn't look like Hound at all. He is just not Hound. This is the thing about the Movieverse. It's not, they don't really design based characters. They say, I want a big fat robot based on John Goodman because we are getting John Goodman. Who can we add it to? Oh, Bulkhead would work. We're doing Hound because it's G1. The same happened with the Dinobots, one exception, but the same happened with Devastator. They wanted to create a combiner, and it's like, well, it's a bunch of combining vehicles, so let's just call it Devastator. Same thing probably happened with Sentinel Prime. Same thing probably happened, well, I guess Shockwave was a bit more, you know, Shockwave was a bit, it was more traditional in the sense, but it's just, I mean, this isn't Hound. Yeah, Sentinel Prime was a pretty good character, but, you know, it wasn't based on any continuity that actually involved Sentinel Prime. Yeah, but I mean, for God's sake, it's an okay design, but give it some more paint. as one of the guys said in the chat earlier, the United version, the Autobots United box set version, it was fine. But there's potential here. The transformation's okay for a shell fauna. I'm just... Come on. For God's sake. So, one thing that, as I said with Scorn earlier in the video, he doesn't actually... He does this weird plastic, this weird soft plastic, and it works way better here because it works for this... works for these sort of, you know, machine gun bullet style things, and the beard is a softer plastic, which means they can get some striking detail out of it. In fact, when they were discussing why they were using the softer plastic in their behind-the-scenes videos, they used Hound as an example, and that works fine. It works a lot better here than it does on Scorn. Problem is, it's Games Workshop grey. That grey that looks incredibly unpainted. The kind of grey they used on Hasbro Times of Turn Blaster. And sure, Games Workshop grey is a bit, you know, it's a bit of a spectrum. You can get a lighter Games Workshop grey and a darker Games Workshop grey. But it's just it's a colour scheme that looks incredibly unpainted. And on a figure that's already not painted very well. It just falls flat. Articulation-wise, you got a head on a swivel, universal shoulders, bicep swivel, 90-degree elbow. No wrist, unfortunately. I guess you sort of get... Oh, actually, wait. You get a wrist swivel, and it actually does the plastic. Now that's a really, really cool design choice. Then you get the waist. You get universal hips, thigh swivel, and a 90-degree knee bend. Now I must reiterate. The figure is in fact missing most of its weapons. The problem is, you know, without the weapons it just feels boring. So, overall, I would give this figure, I'd say 2 stars. I think the United version would get 3, but this figure would definitely get 2 as it is. Overall, it's still quite a nice figure, and I suppose I should do some size comparisons. Compared to another Voyager, here he is with Sentinel Prime, and please... I really got to get used to everything falling over in this setup with this softer material. And then finally, I guess I should bring in Death's Head, just for the sake of it. Ah, damn, this setup really is hard to get used to. How the hell do people off the bottom of steel with it? So, I'll just sort of... There we go. So he's a very small for a... Voyager class. It does work quite well, though. 2 stars. Could have been better, but, you know, the paint, and definitely the Last Night version is better. And that concludes this. This was a pretty poor effort of a stream, but as I said, I was just testing the new setup and doing what I felt like. I do hope you enjoyed, in spite of how bad it was, and I'll catch you all next time.